How good is this? Anytime that there's a new entry from the Unicron Trilogy is cause for celebration. And can I just say, G1 is what made me a Transformers fan, but that was out when I was like a little kid. So those are like almost pre-memory, hardwired love Transformers brainwashing. But for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other millennials, the Unicron Trilogy hit kind of late teens, first kind of disposable income, reminded me what I loved of the franchise, and I would say it's the Unicron Trilogy that made me a Transformers collector. Nuanced. Alright, look, so I know I don't often start with accessories, but it's such an integral aspect of his look, and traditionally, not necessarily a detachable accessory. Anyway, arming up montage. Now that's more like it. If for some reason you didn't want him wielding that double blade, they can store away on each side of his leg, which kind of gives him some of the bulk of the show model, but looks way too over-designed for me. So whilst this weapon may no longer have spring-loaded blades, it is not without action feature. There's a little switch on the back there that lets you move between Autobot and Decepticon faction logos. An excellent tool for an agent of subterfuge. So, let's get down to it. He looks great. The figure has all the inlays and surface details that you're accustomed to seeing on those Cybertron molds. And you got to admit, he is a particularly unique looking Cybertronian. He looks like the Super Sentai Ranger that shows up 3/4 of the way through the show with more powers than everyone else in his own separate Zord. What I'm going to say next, I know ahead of time, is a relatively controversial thing to say for some collectors, but I must admit, on this release, I lament the absence of clear plastic. And hear me out. I know it's fragile, but on the original figure, the windscreen, his face, the blades, and the Cyberplanet key were all clear plastic, which read as another break in his color palette, which I thought worked to his advantage. This way, he is just sitting the tiniest bit flat for my liking. Plus, that light-piped face was always so cool. And surely we can all agree that Transformer swords and blades, generally, seem scarier when they're see-through. He's really serving that Planet X energy, and that neon orange with the black and the gold and silver accents just makes him seem like a big deal. You know this is an important character, even without context.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
In terms of articulation, that head is on ever so slight a swivel, so you can get some subtle looks out of him, but nothing crazy. His arms go all the way around, up to a 90, even with his weapon on. Maybe not with a key. Bicep swivel, 90 bend at the elbow, and swivelly wrists. Don't you think there's something so wonderfully quintessentially Transformers about having space fillers on the back of your hand that kind of double as knuckle dusters, or a cool cuff? Unlike his previous iteration, he does have a waist swivel, which is a cool addition. He also kinda, I guess it's untransforming a little bit, but he's got waist back, which is cool for flying poses. And if you're willing to untransform it even more, kind of an ab crunch. Universal hips, cleverly disguised to look like a ball joint, thigh swivel, and a depth of bend to that knee that can only be called maximum. A little bit of toe forward, bit of back. You can get real toe down if you collapse that heel. And then tilt. And tilt with space filler. Love it. And what that equates to is a figure that looks just like he's freshly warped in for mischief. All of his shapes are cool. Every angle's a dynamic one. He's up to no good. This also seems like the optimal time to introduce the original figure, because to me that's where this release gets really interesting. Is that it's not very often that an updated version of a figure comes out where it's this close to just kind of almost being a re-release functionally. And I think whether or not people prefer the original or the updated version will really come down to individual collector tastes. Let's break it down. So the first thing I want to get out of the way straight up is, yes, I seemingly have temporarily misplaced one of the original Sideways' blades. I don't want to say lost, because I guarantee you it's somewhere. I'm currently redoing all of my displays, So even being able to find him, I'm currently redoing a lot of my displays, so the fact that I was even able to put my hands on the original Sideways is a testimony to my skill and tenacity. But like I said, the differences here really come down to personal preference. So if we look articulation wise, it's all very, very similar, except the updated version has his ankle tilts and a waist swivel. So big ups on posability. But other than that, this figure really was one of those mutations that jumps the whole species forward.
It's a mutation. It's a very groovy mutation.
Like, this was a really good archetype of what you could do in terms of articulation and still have a functional transform with all its gimmickry. He's a little bit like Classic's Mirage. Cybertron Sideways walked, so the Age of the Prime Sideways could run. Then we obviously got to talk apps. So the original has all that clear plastic. That symbol there is just painted orange, sculpted but just painted. Whereas because the originals was clear plastic, they were able to add those tasty gold licks. And speaking of golden licks, the original has quite a bit more going on in terms of paint job. And a lot of it is pretty overtly obvious stuff. So the original, as well as having the clear plastic, has his chin picked out in a silver that's lacking on the update. On the chest, our original guy had some gold apps to break up that silver chest piece that's missing from the new one. And the painted thighs is a big one. The original has all the orange breaking up the solid black of that thigh. We're also up top on the shoulders missing those orange and gold accents on those intakes, exhausts, I don't know, those cool shoulder ridges. In terms of show accuracy, it's also interesting because the TV show model had the orange heel spur, not the black heel spur. Similarly, they've managed to free up a lot of the kibble that the original has on his calves, on his shins, but that's not something they super trimmed for the show model. Apps-wise, what I also think is a damn shame is that they didn't pick up the tiny bits of acid green that he has that make the blade look really cool and like it's a piece off of a Ben 10 alien. They're also there on that crest piece on his back, which is part of the vehicle mode. So you see what I mean? It's a tough call. If you're playing with him, obviously the extra articulation is quite the bonus. But if you're someone who's just setting them up on a cool diorama display, is the articulation worth the loss of the extra apps? It's a tough call. I guess he is slightly better proportioned, but in having some of his details evened out and more proportionate, has that somehow made him feel a little more backgroundy? I'm telling you, everything with these guys is same dog, different leg. I think it's almost more a case of if you didn't manage to get this original one, now there's an opportunity for you to get a figure that's, I don't know, equal. They really are, they equal out. I will say where I think the Age of the Primes figure is edging out the original is how good he looks with some of our other updated Cybertron characters. So the first one is almost more of a public service notice. Hasbro, putting you on the spot, with Sideways done, surely Cybertron Soundwave is the next place to go. Amazingly freaky Soundwave design, cool reinvention of the character. Probably need to do it as a leader class, to be honest, so that he comes with his couple of guns, as well as a laser beak to hit this stature. Come on, do it. You know you want to. Then let's peep in with some of his updated compatriots. One of his partners in crime, Cybertron Starscream. Man, Cybertron really was something else when it came to character designs, wasn't it? These are two very cool, very faithful updates, and they look amazing together. Then let's get him in there with Galaxy Convoy and the contentious Vector Prime retool with the weakest knees in the world. But that's pretty cool. These are some very faithful, lovingly updated toys. But let's pause riding high on nostalgia for a moment, get back to the task at hand, and transform this dude. So the first step here is going to be to disarm him. Open, up, around, pivot, closed. Up, arm, twist, twist, fold, pinch. You want this to fold into that nook there and pinch all together. Click, heels away, fold in and around. Click, this shape here will tab in up there. And the feet will clap over a little tab there. This port here is free for the wings. Then fold down the 5mm peg of his crossbow. And now these two ports here are going to tab in on there. Look at that. This is perfect. What a good transformation. Fun, fluid, quick. Because he has a Cybertronian alt mode, he can be as weird as he wants. This is where sometimes a crazy alt mode gets you a better robot mode. I can see an argument for it being less impressive when you're not making it fit to an Earth vehicle, but I don't know, man. I'm always so much more inclined to transform figures more often when it's a cool, fun, alien, Cybertronian themed alt mode. Or, you know, Planet X in this case. By way of a quick vehicle mode comparison, here he is alongside his best frenemy, Starscream. I mean, that's cool, man. That was one of my favorite things about the Unicron Trilogy, how you had some pretty earthy vehicles in there, and when they worked well. Then you also got the mix of having some fantastic Cybertronian alien alt modes. So that's a wrap. This is definitely going to be one of those figures that's an amazing get for some, and the highlight of the collecting season, and for others, an easy miss. I land in the highlight of the season park. Like I said up top, Unicron Trilogy is when I really got into Transformers in this kind of way. So I'm always going to have a soft spot for these designs and those stories. And I think what we're seeing with some of these releases is that there is definitely an appetite for Unicron Trilogy characters. So what do you think? Have you picked him up? Are you going to pick him up? How do we feel in general? Are you well? Hit me up in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If this is your first time here and you had a fun time, like, subscribe, you know how it goes. If you already have, way to go, you little legend. So until the next one, let's get nerdy with it. Catch!